Okay, so we'll get started today. Let's start today seated. So however you're comfortable, we're actually not going to focus on the lower body. So you could come to a cross-legged seat. You could sit up on a block. Propping the hips up is great if you have tight hips. Also, if you're sitting cross-legged and the knees are up high, if you lift the hips up, the knees will go down a little bit lower. Ideally, we want the hips to be higher than the knees so that you can get the knees down a little bit lower. But sometimes the hips are so tight, that's not really available. So we just do the best we can with what we're working with. All right. So sit up tall, close the eyes. You can let the hands rest on the thighs, either palms facing down on the thighs or palms facing up. This is one where it's nice to go back and forth several times between those two options and figure out which one feels better right now. And as you lift the chest, the pubic bone goes down toward the mat. So you feel nice and long in the front side of the body. We rise up through the crown of the head, tip of the nose points forward and down a little bit. Try to equal out the distance between the chest and the upper back so both feel like they're spacious and wide. Shoulders away from the ears. Now start to take a deep breath in through the nose. Back out through the mouth. 2 more like that one. Deep breath in. Slow breath out through the mouth. Last cleansing breath like this one. Deep breath in. And slow breath out. This time in and out through the nose. Breathe in through the nose. And back out through the nose. Keep going with your Ujjayi breath. Listening to the sound of your own breath. Starting to feel the thoughts in the mind slow down, whatever that means for you. They're still there. We're not trying to make them disappear. We're just trying not to get involved with them. Sometimes it's helpful to just think about them passing by like cars on a freeway. You start to become an observer of your own mind. When we make time like this to pause, take a peek inside our heads, we can also observe what's taking up the most space, which changes all the time. It's good to be curious about it, be interested in what's naturally happening with the mind, so we can take back control. With simply just focusing on the breath. If you have the palms facing up, bring them down so they're resting on the thighs. Bring the head down so that the chin comes down toward the chest. Don't let the chest collapse. So the chest is still lifted, shoulders are still wide, the head's just hanging down, and you're feeling some weight on the back of the neck, getting a stretch there. Bring the right ear over toward the right shoulder. Left hand can reach away from you. If you have the hips propped up, your fingertips might not touch anything. That's fine. Just reach the arm away from you. If you can rest the hand on the mat, that's fine too. But just keep the shoulders away from the ears. You're feeling more length in the left side of the neck. If you want more, you could take the right hand, rest it gently on top of the head. You really don't need much pressure at all. Left arm can stay where it is. You could also reach the left arm out to the side, palm facing behind you, and wrap the left arm behind the back. Gently, it's not as tight as you can go. You're just starting to get into that left side chest, shoulder blade area. When you're stretching out the neck, you can feel how all of that is connected. If you have the left arm behind the back, stretch it back out so you're reaching down toward the mat. Right hand comes down by the side. Bring the chin back down toward the chest. Stay here. See if you can feel a difference in one side of the neck compared to the other. Not a big deal if you don't. But for some of us, the left side might feel longer than the right side. Keep the chest lifted, shoulders wide. Left ear comes over toward the left shoulder. We always go slow with these transitions. The end's a slower practice. Less effort, more time. Maybe the left hand comes up on top of the head, nice and light. Right hand's reaching away from you. If you're enjoying this, stay right here. If you want a little bit more, you could reach the right arm out to the side, palm facing behind you. Wrap the right arm behind the back gently, so not as deep as you can go, maybe just halfway, whatever that means for you. Want to keep things soft. Right arm goes back down toward the mat, releasing that half bind. Left hand comes down toward the mat, still reaching the left ear toward the left shoulder. And slowly start to bring the chin down toward the chest. Go slow so you can feel how the neck moves to get there. And once you get there, just let the head hang. Try not to let the shoulders cave in or the chest collapse. Bring the head back up. So you're looking straight forward. Take your fingertips, bring them to your collarbone. You can just spread them out a little bit wide, and then you'll just press down on the skin of the collarbone and then underbite. So stick the chin out and point the chin up. So Marlon Brando is the best thing I can come up with. Just think about that. Keep breathing. Bring the gaze back forward, hands come down to the thighs. Close the eyes. Feel the difference in what you did with the space around the neck. Starting to get into the upper body. Maybe you're feeling it there too. Blink open the eyes. If you're seated up on top of a block or something underneath you, set that off to the side. Let's separate the feet. So soles of the feet are wide on the mat, knees and toes always in the same direction. So they're pointing out a little bit. You can stay like this with the hands back behind you, just seated with the chest lifted. If you feel comfortable, you could bring the hands in front of you and start to fold forward, but it's so you're not going as far or as deep as you can into a pose. You're just getting the body set up, letting the upper back round, the head and the neck fall, coming into a place where you have some room to fall deeper in the pose as the body begins to become more comfortable with it. And that sound of your breath also helps your nervous system start to relax, reset, and helps the body know that it's okay in this pose, so that the hips can begin to open, the back side of the body starts to lengthen. And maybe you start finding more comfort and ease in this shape. And even here, make sure you're not using your neck. Sometimes the neck wants to help hold up the head no matter which way you've got the body, but it doesn't need to do anything here. And in fact, it's a nice opening for the neck if you can just let the head hang. We'll start to bring the head back up. You can start to walk the hands in. Bring the hands to the backs of the thighs so you can bring the soles of the feet together. And here's another shape where you can lift the hips up if you want to prop the hips up. Again, especially if the knees are up high and you can't get them down any lower. Shift side to side once you get to your comfortable seat. Sitting up tall. So here you're either grabbing onto the shins, the ankles. If you can easily reach the feet, hang on to the inner edges of the feet. You'll open up. If you do have the feet, you start to open up the feet so that the pinky toe sides of the feet come together and you can see the soles of the feet. And that's a nice opening that's happening there. So you'll start to fold forward, just round the spine. Don't worry about reaching the heart forward over the toes. Let the head and the neck go. Make this a softer version of what you would normally do if you're used to more active classes. This will be a longer hold. So you want to pace yourself for that. One other thing I forgot to mention, if you have any trauma in the knees or one knee's way higher than the other knee, a block is a great prop to use. Just wedge it underneath the knee, the thigh. And if you do have a situation where one knee's way higher than the other knee, the block goes under the knee that's lower to lift that knee up so it's in line with the higher knee. And that gives you a nice hip opening. It works toward evening out the hips. Start to bring the head back up, coming back up to seated. Use the hands to bring the knees back together. Bring the hands back behind you. Open up the feet wide again. Knees are still lifted. And then you'll start to bring the knees side to side like windshield wipers. And when that inner edge of the knee comes down toward the mat, that's where you might feel a little bit more sensation because we haven't done much internal hip rotation. Okay, next time the knees both end up over on the left, stay there. Hands are still back behind you. You're feeling that inner right knee go down toward the mat, outer left knee go down toward the mat. Take this right hand, bring it forward so it's between the legs, and you're turning the chest to point forward toward this left knee. Ideally, the knees, each knee's in line with the corresponding hip. So you can just take a look. You're trying to make a 90-degree angle with each leg. Sometimes if you have the feet all the way out the way I do, this is the deepest version of the pose. If it's too much, bring the feet in toward the body. Just keep the knees in the same place or somewhere in between. And then start to point the chest forward. As you point the chest forward, maybe that left hand is out to the side and you're leaning to the left. That's fine if that feels like a comfortable place for you to be. Maybe some of you are seated upright. Close the eyes, stay upright here. So, or wherever you are, you could be leaning to the left. That's fine. But chest is going forward, trying to find a place where you can just be in this shape. This one's called deer pose. You're opening up both hips at the same time, but in different directions. So external rotation of the left hip, internal rotation of the right hip. And that right hip will feel lifted away from the mat. That's fine. You do want a little bit of effort there to press it down toward the mat, but it's not a constant thing. You're welcome to stay right here, or you could start to walk the hands forward, folding over the left leg. You don't need to go very far. Try not to let this right hip lift too much. So there's a balance between going forward and not letting the right hip lift. Head and neck can release. You're welcome to use blocks underneath the hands, forehead. Putting them in a place that offers you support and better alignment if you're using them. And start to walk the hands in, lifting the chest and the head. You'll bring that right hand between the legs again, and then right hand goes back behind you. Bring the knees back to center, move the knees side to side. So you're sitting reclined, getting some movement back in the hips. Next time both knees end up over to the right, stay there. Hands still back behind you. You're just working the outer right knee down and the inner left knee down toward the mat. Then that left hand comes forward between the legs, sitting up tall if you can. You're welcome to lean over to the right. Hand or feet can come in toward the body if you need something gentler, or keep the feet flexed. Feet in line with the knees is the deepest variation, knees in line with the hips. And we start just seated. We're not folding forward yet. You can close the eyes once you get comfortable. Start to focus on your breath. That left hip that's lifted away from the mat, little bit of effort to get it down if you don't have anything happening there and it's just lifting weight up. Maybe you start to fold forward. Take your time with this. Might be in a different place than you were on the other side. Not allowing the hips to lift up too much away from the mat. So you stay in the hip opening on the left side. Start to walk the hands in, lifting the chest and the head, left hand between the legs, and then bring the left hand back behind you. Knees come back up, knees go side to side, windshield wipers. Then from here, you'll come to hands and knees. So coming up to tabletop, stack the shoulders over the wrists, hips over the knees. Let's get a little bit of movement, some cat-cow. So on the inhale, reach the heart forward, lift the tail. On the exhale, round the spine, chin in toward the chest. Keep going on your own. Stay with the cycle of your own breath. Try to keep it long and even. So that means the movement is slow. You get plenty of time in each pose. Cat is when you round the spine, and cow is when you arch. One more cycle, forward and back. You'll come back to a neutral spine, bring the knees all the way together, tops of the feet down to the mat, and you want the feet to be slightly wider than the hips. Blocks could be really nice here, blanket, pillow, whatever you have. So you'll take a block or something like it, the wide way between the ankles. And you can always stack 2 blocks on top of one another. That's another great place to be. And that just gives your hips a little bit more space. Bring the hands to the calf muscle and move the calf muscle out from behind the knee. Set the hips down between the feet. So tops of the feet are down on the mat, outer ankles hugging in, hips are even on whatever's underneath you. So that's how you know how much lift you need. Some people can get their hips all the way down to the mat between the feet without any props. If that's you, stay there. That's great. But you want to make sure you can stay there for some time. So it should feel easy in your body. So now you're opening up all the joints in the lower half of the body. Sit up tall, rest the hands on the thighs, open up across the chest and across the shoulder blades. So widen the outer shoulders away from one another. Crown of the head lifts up, tip of the nose points forward and down a little bit. Okay, keep the upper body. You can blink open the eyes. Bend the left hand back so palm faces up toward the ceiling, trying to get the heel of the hand in line with the elbow, and then grab onto the 4 fingers and you're bringing those fingers back toward the forearm. Finding a nice opening in your hand, wrist, maybe even the forearm. And you're in charge, so you figure out how much pressure you need on those 4 fingers. Keep the breath audible. Start to release those 4 fingers. Go to the thumb. So that left thumb. And we'll switch hands. Right fingertips point back, palm faces up. Grab onto those 4 fingers, heel of the hand in line with the elbow. Start to apply some pressure. And release. Grab onto the right thumb. Same thing here. And release that. Hands come back down to the thighs. And you'll start to come forward to hands and knees again. So shift forward. If you have anything underneath the hips, remove it, set it off to the side. Come down onto your stomach. So walk the feet back, lying down onto your stomach. Legs are straight back behind you. Bring the left arm out to the side and then take a look at it. You want that left hand in line with the left shoulder. Then turn the head away so that you're looking to the right. Right hand is on the mat. So it looks like this, right hand's on the mat, just by the rib cage. That's a nice place to be. If you can set the head down, rest the head down onto the mat. You can always lift it up a little bit if it feels like it's too low. And then press into the right hand, start to roll back onto this left shoulder, any amount. So the hips are going to start to lift away from the mat. And you might feel like you're not lifting them that far away from the mat. That's fine. You're just trying to figure out where your shoulder opening's happening. Some of you will feel like the hips are stacked, meaning the right hip feels like it's directly on top of the left hip. That's fine. That right foot can stay stacked on top of the left foot. And these options only matter because of where the hips are. So if you're fine where you are, stay where you are, but I'll give you a couple options in case you're struggling. That right foot could go forward in front of the left foot. That's probably better if the hips are lower to the mat. Another option is right foot could go back behind the left. It doesn't need to really go that far. Not trying to open up the hips. You're just trying to keep them stacked. Or maybe you just keep the feet stacked and that's good. Right hand could come in a little closer to the body. It can move away from you. Feel where it offers the most support, and it's not taking on too much of the load. And once you're in it, see where you can start to let go. Just focusing on the breath. You want to feel like the legs are long, the tail is pointing toward the feet, toward the back of the mat, not back behind you. Start to roll back onto your stomach. Once you get there, we'll start to switch sides. So left hand comes in toward the mat, stretch the right arm out, palm down, get the palm in line or the hand in line with the right shoulder. Look to the left, rest the right side of the head down onto the mat. Start to press into the left hand, roll back onto that right shoulder, go gently, feeling your way into it to feel exactly where you need to be. So this is where your intuition comes into play. You know what's going on in your body better than anyone else. You're the only one that can feel it. Don't forget the option of moving that top foot forward or back, or keeping the feet stacked. Start to roll back onto your stomach. Once you get there, hips are down on the mat. Bring the elbows in underneath you, setting up for Sphinx pose as our back bend. So shoulders are nice and open, elbows underneath the shoulders, palms of the hands down on the mat, chest points forward, tailbone points back toward the heels. And you're broadening across the collarbones. So you're wide across the chest. Bottom tips of the shoulder blades are helping you push the chest forward a little bit. We look down the bridge of the nose to keep the back of the neck long. We don't want to lose that space that we made at the beginning of our practice. Tops of the feet are down, but you can let the legs relax. You don't need to grip the tops of the feet on the mat. If at any point you need to take a break in your Sphinx pose, all you do is stack the hands, let the head rest down on top of the hands, or you could bring the arms down by the sides and turn the head one direction. And then you come back whenever you're ready. If you had enough, then you just stay in the resting position. So don't ever feel like, especially with some of these shapes, you have to kind of go sort of deep into them to even be in them. You just work your way up to longer holds. And we'll all come down to rest. So you can stack the hands or bring the arms down by the sides, turning the head one direction. You'll start to lift the head up. Lie down onto your right side of your body. So come onto the right side. You're on the side of the right hip. Right hand supports the head. So the head is lifted. Left hand's just down on the mat in front of you. So legs are back behind you. This top leg, the left leg, bring it forward. Maybe the foot's in line with the hip. It could be lower. It doesn't need to be all the way forward. So just find a place where you can be. And then from here, bend the bottom leg, that right leg, any amount that feels okay to you. So you could stay right here. You could also take the left hand, reach back, see if you can connect the foot and the hand, and then you're hanging onto the foot. You're starting to come into a twist. Shoulders are open, lower half of the body is open. We started with all that lower body work and then worked our way up the body. So head can stay like this, propped up on the right hand. You could also reach that right arm forward out in front of you, palm up, and maybe you roll onto the back of the head, rest down on the mat. And that's a deeper twist. If it's too much to hang onto the foot, then skip that part and you can just keep the leg bent and you don't have to hold on to the foot. So cat pulling its tail is this one, the name of this pose. It's a bigger shape. There's a lot going on. It can feel good once you've done a variety of poses ahead of it. You can close the eyes. You can keep the gaze up. You could look to the left a little bit if your neck's okay with that. Maybe scan the body, see where you can ease up, where you can make this more gentle. Start to bring the head back to center. If you're looking to the left, gently release that right leg. Bring the left hand over to the side. So the left hand comes down to the mat. Prop the head up with the right hand. Bring the left leg back on top of the right leg. And we'll just switch sides. So come back onto your stomach, roll back over. So now you're lying on your left side, and you'll bring the head into the left hand, legs back behind you, right leg reaches forward. Maybe the foot's in line with the hip. It could be lower. Then bend the left leg. Stay like this, or maybe you reach back, see if you can connect the foot and the hand. Stay here. Just see if the body's okay with this. We don't want to rush into these shapes, especially the bigger ones. Maybe that left arm reaches forward in front of you, palm up, bringing the back of the head down onto the mat, opening the chest up. You can let go of that bottom foot if it's too much. Maybe the gaze starts to go to the right. Go easy. You're not going into the deepest variation of this twist. So wherever you are, you know there's still room left for you to go way deeper. If you have it, start to release that bottom leg back to straight. Head comes back to center. Right arm comes over to the left. And that helps you lift the chest up. You can bring the right hand down to the mat, lifting the head up into the hand. Right leg goes back behind you. You're lying on your side. You'll come to lying on your stomach. Let's rest here. Stack the hands or arms down by the sides. Forehead comes down to the mat. Let the legs relax. So that means the ankles can roll out, toes can point in. Maybe you lift the feet up, move the feet side to side like windshield wipers. Only if that doesn't bother your lower back. If it does, skip it. And set the feet back down to the mat. Make your way back to tabletop. Once you get to tabletop, you'll come to seated, legs out in front of you. So feet come over to one side, legs out in front of you. So we're setting up for Shavasana. You can certainly do Shavasana without any props. If you'd like to use props, I'll give you an option. You can grab your bolster, take the bolster underneath the head. So it's like a pillow. Have your blocks nearby if you have 2 blocks. And if you only have a bolster or just blocks, and just do that part, whatever you have. So come on down onto your back, bolster supporting the neck and the head. And then you'll take the blocks, keep those within reach, one on each side. You want them on the lowest height, the widest way underneath the thighs. So you'll start to extend the legs out. Thighs will be elevated, knees will be elevated. It'll help you get the hips a little heavier down on the mat and some width across the lower back. Then you can let the toes turn out. Your feet are probably off the mat, maybe depending on how wide you're opening up the legs. Palms face up, fingers curl. Close the eyes. Final relaxation pose, Shavasana. Start to wiggle the fingers and the toes. Walk the feet in, soles of the feet to the mat. If you have blocks underneath the legs, just set them off to the side so they're out of the way. Then roll over to your right side. You can keep the head on the pillow, keeping the eyes closed. Take a deeper breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Use the hands to bring yourself up to a comfortable seat, probably the way you started. Sitting up tall, feeling how you can find that posture. So you're pressing down into the sit bones, lifting up through the heart, shoulders down the back, tip of the nose points forward and down a little bit, feeling all that space in the back side of the neck. We rise up through the crown of the head. Bring the hands together in front of you. A little bit of pressure into the hands that'll help you keep the arms active and the chest open. Slight bow of the head. Take a moment, honor and acknowledge your heart and spirit, as well as everyone around you. Bring the head back up, blink open the eyes. Namaste. Thank you. Hope that was a good practice for you, that you're enjoying yin. Maybe I'll see you for flow on Thursday. If you can't join live, I'll post the recording on YouTube.